Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.
Is scheduled for February 24th, 2021 at 7 p.m. virtually via Zoom. Before we get started today, I do have something I need to read in. All right. So as chair of the Merrimack Zoning Board of Adjustment, due to the COVID-19 crisis in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through either dialing one of the phone numbers, which is 312-626-6799 or 929-205-6099. Our meeting ID is 980-8991-6937. The meeting may also be viewed on Merrimack TV channel 20 or Merrimack TV webpage, which is merrimacktv.com. When public comment is opened by the chair, press *9 on your phone to raise your hand in order for me to see that you're looking to speak. If I call upon you, please dial *6 to unmute your audio so that you can present your testimony. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided in the meeting agenda posted on the Town of Merrimack's website at www.merrimacknh.gov/zoning-board. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email rprice, so R-P-R-I-C-E, at merrimacknh.gov. Adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes tonight are being taken during this meeting will be done by roll call. And so we're going to start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance where we state our name and if there is anyone presently in the room with us per the right to know law. So I am Rich Conescu and there is nobody in the room with me. Ben?
Yes, Ben Niles, and there's nobody in the room with me.
Patrick?
Patrick Dwyer, there's nobody in the room with me.
Drew?
Drew Duffy, and there's nobody in the room with me.
Okay. And Lynn?
Lynn Christensen, and I'm all myself. Rich, I'm going to have to log off, and I'll get right back on.
Okay, thank you. Right, so before we get started, Ben, if I can have you sit in for Rodney tonight, and Drew, if I can have you sit in for as the fifth board member.
Mr. Chair, just to note, Ben is actually a full member now, so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Were we supposed to have a meeting about that?
Town council did.
No, town council.
Oh,
So
I didn't realize the process changed. Okay, well, that's easy enough. In that case, Ben, welcome aboard. Thank you. I don't have to ask you to sit in anymore.
Yeah, when Kathy resigned, Ben put his name in with general government for the vacancy and went through the interview process and was appointed.
Excellent. So in that case, the only one who's sitting in is Drew, sitting in for Rodney. All right. And Lynn, are you back?
I am back.
Okay, excellent. And Patrick, do you have the preamble?
I do.
Excellent.
Do you want me to read it?
Please.
Just kidding. All right. Good evening to those in attendance and watching at home. For the benefit of those who have not previously attended a zoning board hearing, the procedure is as follows. The petitions will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. However, the chair may change the order at their discretion. The board will treat all petitioners, their representatives, abutters, and other interested parties fairly and with respect. The petitioner will be asked to give an overview of their petition and read through their responses to the criteria applicable to their case, allowing for the board to ask questions after each item. State law and local ordinances establish the criteria that must be met in order for the board to grant approval to a petition. And it is the petitioner's responsibility to demonstrate that they have met each criterion. Following the presentation, the chair will open the floor for public comment, either in favor or opposed to the request. If necessary, an opportunity for rebuttal will be offered to the petitioner and public. However, discussion will not be allowed to devolve into back and forth arguments. All comments must be made directly toward the chair. Should a question be asked, the chair will pose the question to the petitioner. Afterward, the chair will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate and vote on the petition. At this time, please silence any mobile devices if you're going to be on mic. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So we'll move to the first petition, which is Brian Allen, petitioner, and Cali Construction, LLC, owner. Special exception under section 2.02.13 E6 of the zoning ordinance to permit a single-family dwelling 11.5 feet from the side property line, whereas 15 feet is required. Parcels located at 7 Loop Road in the C1 Limited Commercial Aquifer Conservation, Town Center Overlay, and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts. Tax map 5D-4, lot 67, case ZBA 2021-01. And who will be speaking for this particular petition?
Hi, this is Brian Allen.
Hi, and do you have anyone else that will be looking to speak with you tonight?
No, it'll just be me.
Okay. In that case, if you could please raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you so much. So if you could just walk us through what you're looking to do, and when you're going through the 6 criteria for the special exception, if you could just stop at the end of each criteria in case we have questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Can I walk you through the plot plan real quick?
Sure.
Okay. So the minimum setback line, we understood when we built the house, it just was placed in the wrong area. So it was designed not to need any special exceptions, and it just happened to get placed slightly over the minimum setback line.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, was that just a miscalculation or not having the proper survey?
So the surveyor marked it prior to the foundation being dug and was not able to come back out the same day of the survey due to COVID. And we went by the mark that was there, and apparently it was the wrong mark. So it was my error.
Okay.
There was an existing home there. The existing home was 4 feet from that property line. And we attempted to move it back to 15 feet, but we're at 11.5 feet with the overhang of the roof. The foundation is 12.5 feet.
Okay. So do you want to step us through the special exception criteria?
Yep. Do I read each one?
Yeah, simply just read in the question and then just state what you put for the public to hear, and then we'll ask questions if we have them after each section.
Okay, perfect. The proposed additions, alterations, or improvements would serve to promote the reuse, restoration, rehabilitation, or otherwise enhance an historic building or structure or any other potential historic building or structure identified by the Historic Resources Inventory component of the town center plan because the existing house was not livable and the overgrown landscaping was currently was there.
All right. Any questions from the board? All right, please continue.
The proposed additions, alterations, or improvements are for any use currently permitted within the town center overlay because single-family homes are allowed.
Yeah, I think that's pretty direct. I don't think we're gonna have any questions for that.
The proposed additions, alterations, or improvements would not result in significantly increased hazards to vehicles, pedestrians, or impair or impede emergency vehicle access, or the provision of emergency services, or the planned improvements to the transportation corridor because we're replacing an existing house.
Okay. Any questions from the board on that? All right, please continue.
The proposed additions, alterations, or improvements would not result in unreasonable impacts to abutting properties by the way of increased noise, odor, visual blight, or other nuisance because we're replacing an existing house.
Okay. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward, so I'll just have you read through it all.
Okay. The proposed additions, alterations, or improvements would serve to enhance the overall goals of the town center plan because we're bringing a new home to bring new families downtown. Adequate provisions for parking and other necessary support facilities are provided for proposed additions, alterations, or improvements because the existing driveway is to be used.
Are there any questions from the board on any of this? Patrick, you look like you have a question.
Well, I mean, when it comes to construction and, things like that, what's the old adage, measure twice, cut once. You can't ask them to move the house at this point, but I get irked by stuff like that. But I mean, I get it. Mistakes happen, things happen. But yeah, I guess there's really not much to say on it. I mean, I'm curious to hear what everyone else thinks on it, but I'll leave that for the public and for the board to discuss.
Yes. My only real thought here is that yes, it was a mistake, but on the other hand, it's a special exception. So we're not really bending an ordinance for this. We're just it's kind of it is a permitted use. So
all right.
It's not.
I would agree with that.
So typically, Brian, with special exceptions, the burden is really more on us as a board to kind of determine whether or not the criteria was met, rather than for you to prove that the criteria is met. Only because special exceptions are, by their definition, allowable uses, as opposed to a variance, which is to bend an allowed usage. So, I mean, it seems extremely cut and dry to me. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before I go ahead and open this to the public?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. So what I'll go ahead and do now is figure out how to get my Zoom meeting to show all the windows here. If there's anybody on the phone that's looking to speak either against or in favor of this, if you go ahead and please dial *9 so I know that you're looking to speak regarding this particular petition. And I'll give it a minute for anyone to call in and dial *9 so I know they're looking to speak.
I do see one raised hand.
Okay. Let me just expand this. So for caller ending in the number ending in 155, if you could please dial *6 and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Paul English. I'm the owner of to the property abutting to the right, 5 Loop Road. It's actually under my company name, which is what is it? Loop Road Merrimack LLC. I do not have the, can I begin with my question or?
Yeah, just first I do need to swear you in. So
Absolutely.
if you just raise your right hand and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. And please feel free to let us know what your thoughts are.
Sure. First of all, no one else is in the room but for a dog. Not being coerced or anything. I should say, first of all, I'm on the website trying to look at this meeting, and unless things have changed, I've been unable to do so. So I do feel a little bit compromised in that I don't have an ability to look at Mr. Allen's plot plan. It wasn't made available online through any link that I could locate on the planning board agenda, any of the planning board sites, or anything, or this. And it's not live streaming now, and it's not available to me through Zoom. And through COVID, I don't think I can go down to Merrimack. So first of all, I don't think this is a major case. I don't want Mr. Allen to have chest pains over there. But I do have a problem with the fact that this information wasn't available to me because, quite frankly, I should be, as a butter, I should be able to have this information in front of me. And more importantly, Mr. Allen wants to get this decision over with, the board rule on it, and not have to have me ask for a continuance to look at this information. That being said, my gripe is over. Now, it sounds like Mr. Allen had a contractor put in a foundation, and it's now closer to my property at 5 Loop Road. Is that my understanding?
My understanding, this was so I guess with that being said, Brian, is that an accurate statement from the caller?
I think it's closer to the other side.
Correct. So it's within the 15 feet setback from 5 Loop Road. We're 11 and a half feet from 9 Loop Road.
Okay, so you're too close to the property on the left.
Yes, not your
That's
house.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, so the one on the right, the white little ranch that's facing sideways, you're actually farther away or the same amount as before.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't give you chest pains. I was concerned with runoff down to my property, and I wanted to discuss that with you. But if it's not part of this meeting, maybe we'll talk separate and apart from this meeting at a later date, maybe putting some bushes in between or something, which I'm willing to contribute to. But I have no objection to Mr. Allen's design. I wish him well. His house looks nice on the lot better than what was there. So I don't think it has any negative impact on the area. And I'm saying that as the abutter.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you just dial *6 to remute.
Oh, yes.
And if there's anyone else that's looking to speak regarding this petition, please dial *9 now. All right. I'll go ahead and close the public portion of the petition. And do I hear a motion?
I'll move we grant we're doing special exception here
Yes.
as proposed.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All right. Motion made by Lynn, seconded by Patrick. Lynn, are you in favor?
I am.
Patrick, are you in favor?
Yes.
Ben, are you in favor?
Yes.
Drew, are you in favor?
Yes.
And I as well am in favor, so that's 5-0-0. So the only thing I would say to that is technically there is a 30-day appeal window, but the house is already there, so I guess there's really nothing left to do.
I looked at this house when it first went on the market. This was the right thing to do. This can only improve that area.
Oh, agreed, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
All right. So now moving on to the next petition, which is Wonderland Farm LLC petitioner and Linda Raymond owner. Variance under section 2.02.1 of the zoning ordinance to permit commercial uses, sales of Christmas trees and accessory uses in the R1 residential district. The parcels are located at 105 and 107 Turkey Hill Road in the R1 residential by soils and aquifer conservation districts, tax map 4C lot 229 and 229-01, case ZBA 2021-02. Just taking a look at a few things here. And who will be speaking for this particular petition?
That'll be me, Brett Allard with Bernstein Share.
Okay. Is anyone else going to be speaking on this call with you?
The applicant is here, Derek Gagnon. He's joined by his wife Vanessa on a separate Zoom box. He presumably could answer any questions that I can't, but I'll be giving the presentation.
Okay. So in that case, I'll go ahead and swear you in. So if you could just raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Good to be back as always. I'm here tonight on a variance. Well, I guess it's two variances, one for each lot, 105 and 107 Turkey Hill Road, tax map 4C lots 229 and 229-1, situated in the R1 zone. My client is under contract to purchase lot 229-1, which is presently vacant. I'm going to share my screen real quick and pull up the plan. Can everyone see that all right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is lot 229-1 over here. This is lot 229 over on this side. You'll see that there's, we're proposing a Christmas tree farm across these two lots. The portion that's on the lot 229 owned by Linda Raymond is going to be utilized from a legal perspective in the nature of an easement, which because some of the Christmas tree farm area up here crosses over onto that lot. There's a snack shack proposed right here on her lot. And if I flip to the other sheet, you can see the driveway access. There's a portion of the parking lot proposed on her lot as well by agreement. So we have a driveway access proposed at the intersection of Turkey Hill Road and Bancroft Street. We've made sure to align the driveway access to make a T-stop or four-way sort of intersection, which is my understanding that that's the town's preferred design for driveway access, rather than having an offshoot here or on this side. And both lots can be serviced by MVD water. Lot 229 over here already has a single-family home on it with a shed and a garage back here. It has a septic system that's tied into MVD water. As I said, the other newly subdivided lot as of last year, this board may recall that application coming before it, is currently vacant. So this variance the variance we're requesting is not for a Christmas tree farm use. That would be exempt under the statutory agricultural uses in terms of selling trees that are grown on the site. The applicant can do that as a matter of right as long as he obtains site plan approval from the planning board. The variances that we're seeking are only to allow the snack shack here and for Christmas trees to be brought in from off-site and sold on the property during the first few years of the business's operations. So I think it's important to remember to put into context as we move forward throughout the 5 variance criteria is that the analysis is more narrow than it might ordinarily be, and I'm trying to think about this in the context of not a variance for a Christmas tree farm use in general, but really just a more narrow concept, which is a variance to allow Christmas trees to be brought in from off-site and sold until such time as the property can sustain itself with trees that are fully grown on the site. Obviously, that it takes time for trees to grow. Board doesn't need me to tell them that to know it. So the long-term goal for the applicant is to have 100% of inventory sourced from the property directly and not have to bring in trees from off-site. But again, it takes about 7 years for that to happen, 7 to 10 years, and you have to do it in rotating batches rather than just planting, thousands of trees all at the same time. So to meet local demand and sustain its business operations during the first few years of the business, the applicant needs to bring in trees from off-site. And, in addition to that being sort of necessary from a business standpoint, it'll also help to offset the substantial startup costs that this small family locally owned business is incurring to start up this process. And additionally, it'll help the consumers. Presumably, a large portion of those will be from Merrimack and maybe even surrounding towns. But because not all patrons are able to walk and cut down their own trees, so it'll be nice to be able to offer people who want to come to Merrimack to get a tree or stay in Merrimack to get a tree the ability to come here and get a pre-cut tree that had been hauled in, rather than having to go hike out in the back to the farm to cut down their own. So in terms of getting the trees that are pre-cut and sourced from off-site to the property, there only needs to be one delivery a year. That'll be in November. They can bring in about 500 to 800 trees on a flatbed truck, and the truck parks for a couple hours and they're unloaded. And that's it in terms of additional traffic relative to this variance of bringing in trees from off-site. You have one trip once a year, one truck. And the goal is to be vertically integrated by year 10, and that'll obviously greatly reduce the need for pre-cut purchases and eliminate that one annual delivery. This is a seasonal operation, as you would expect with any Christmas tree farm, starting on, Black Friday and concluding on Christmas Eve, probably even, as a practical matter, a couple days before Christmas Eve. And for the rest of the year, the other 11 months of the year or so, the property is essentially dormant. It's just trees growing and waiting for Christmas again. So that's sort of the concept in a nutshell. We did go to the planning board last Tuesday, the 19th, for a conceptual meeting to get some opinions from them before we came here. And this proposal received overwhelmingly positive feedback and support from the board. Bill Boyd, one of the members of the planning board, actually indicated that Arthur Pete Gannon, who sat on the planning board for 40 years, I never had the opportunity to appear before him, but I'm sure many on this board know who he is. He ran on the planning board for about 40 years and was a certified arborist and extremely knowledgeable about soils. And Bill indicated that he'd be tickled pink by this proposal because of his interest in running the Willow Pond Nursery and raising his own trees and plants and flowers and whatnot. And additionally, Bill indicated that he thought the concept of a Christmas tree farm is absolutely appropriate, that he thought it was a wonderful idea, adds depth and perspective to the neighborhood. And even though it's not a conservation area per se, it's going to have that same desired effect. So you're still going to be able to maintain jurisdictional wetlands on the property without them being impacted. You're going to attract birds and waterfowl and deer. It really just preserves the integrity of the neighborhood and is a great opportunity for people in Merrimack to stay in Merrimack and be able to cut down a Christmas tree right in their own backyard. Those were some, just to summarize some of his comments. There's also an abutter letter that was supplied to the board, the planning board, in connection with the conceptual design meeting. I believe Robert forwarded that to you folks at my request earlier today. I don't have to go through one by one since I assume that this board has read the letter or will read the letter, but it was also overwhelmingly positive and pretty much tracked those points that I just summarized from the planning board member. So without further ado, unless the board has any preliminary questions in terms of the semi-long-winded introduction I just gave, I would be happy to dive into the 5 variance criteria.
Absolutely, yeah. And we did receive the letter. We can't read it in because it wasn't addressed to the zoning board per se, but we did see that it was an overwhelmingly positive letter. So thank you for providing that. And if you could just stop at the end of each variance criteria, in case we have questions, then Please go for it.
All right. One, granting variance would not be contrary to the public interest. And the court held to be contrary to the public interest, the variance must unduly conflict with the ordinance such that it violates basic zoning objectives. And in determining whether that has occurred, the relevant test is whether granting the variance would alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Here, that is just not the case. Granting the variance to allow for that small snack shack and Christmas tree, to allow Christmas trees that are grown off-site to be sold on the property will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Again, this is only going to be open about 4 to 5 weeks per year and be dormant for the remainder of the year. We're only going to have one delivery of off-site trees per year, so there's no traffic impacts. It is a commercial use, but really will have the same effect as a conservation area in terms of preserving the wetlands and attracting wildlife, and really will protect and complement the character of the neighborhood and preserve the integrity of the neighborhood. Unless the board has any questions, I'll move on to the second criteria.
I would just sorry. Are you? Unless I have the wrong one in front of me. Oh, this is the right one. I get what you're saying. It just doesn't match what's on our document here. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No.
Okay, continue, please.
What doesn't match what was on the document? Maybe I can clarify. I'm not sure what you're referring to there.
Oh no, I was trying to follow along with you, but I wasn't sure if you were reading off the document provided.
The narrative. Oh no, I was just kind of summarizing rather than or supplementing, I guess I should.
All right, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But so for a second there, I thought I was going crazy and I had the wrong petition in front of me. I'm like, wait a minute, what is he reading? What is he reading? No worries. That's just, we're good. Sorry.
All right, great. Two, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Because it's in the public interest to uphold the spirit of the ordinance, the courts have held that these two criteria are related. And if you meet one test, you almost certainly meet the other. So I would just incorporate by reference my previous comments with respect to the first criteria, and just add that really the spirit of the ordinance is observed here because selling trees that are grown on the property is permitted by right, and there's no negative or additional or adverse impact to the neighborhood by granting a variance to allow one shipment a year of imported trees that aren't grown on the site to be hauled in until such time as the trees that are grown on the property are mature enough to sustain the ongoing operations of the business.
So the only question that I have regarding the spirit of the ordinance is it does state on the petition that the purpose for a commercial use is explicitly the sales of Christmas trees and accessory uses. What are the limitations by that wording, or are there no, excuse me, if this variance passes, are there no limitations to what commercial uses constitutes?
Well, I think obviously the relief that's granted by this board is contained within the scope of, the language of the grant and how the notice of decision is written. But we're only asking for a variance to allow trees that are not grown on the site to be hauled in and sold during the first few years of the business. And then obviously the small snack shack. If we were to propose a strip mall, I think we'd be here having a different conversation. I don't think there's any limitation in terms of the variance for selling trees because, like I said, the ones that are grown on site can be sold as a matter of right under the agricultural statutory exemption. So I think our request for a variance is very narrow in that we are simply asking for a relief for a commercial use in the R1 zone, but that commercial use is limited to two things. One, the snack shack, and two, the ability to bring in Christmas trees that are not grown on the property and to sell them on the property.
Mr. Chair, I would echo what Mr. Allard provided to you. If the board were to go forward and grant these variances, then to cover that situation that you're worried about, you could condition specifically on the snack shack and the trucking in of trees.
I was actually more curious based on the wording if the owner could then take the variance and, let's say, build a convenience store on the property, and if that would be,
they're asking for the specific language in their request, but if the board were to blanket grant the commercial use, then the potential could be there for a legal interpretation that would allow something more flexible. So that's why I'm encouraging some strict wording in a decision if the board were to be voting in favor of the variance.
Okay. All right.
And I would echo what Robert said, because we're not, trying to do anything other than, what I've mentioned, which is just those two very narrowly tailored types of uses, the snack shack and the off-site trees coming in.
Okay.
Rich?
Yes.
I'm a little uncomfortable here. I'm hearing a lot of talk about tree farm and bringing in trees and growing trees. I have heard absolutely no discussion about a snack shack. And I think having that in there and allowing for it can open us up to having something significantly more than a snack shack. I want to hear about this snack shack. I have no problem with the trees. I want to hear what the snack shack is. And I haven't seen anything that's been distributed to us or talked about tonight that addresses that.
Actually, that's a valid point. What is the definition of a snack shack?
There's nothing in there that says.
You can see it right here on the plan. So it's 20 by 20 in terms of dimensions. It's next to the parking lot where folks would drive in. And I would, I would say it's similar to, I've been to some tree farms, and you'll see they have, a little hut, or, this would be like the size of a shed. So it would have, maybe cookies or hot chocolate or, little Christmas decorations, just a small little accessory structure where, maybe you could pay for maybe you would pay for your tree there, get a cup of hot chocolate to take with you when you go out to the back of the property to cut your tree down, and maybe a couple of Christmas cookies. So we're talking about a pretty low intensity, shed type structure to complement the property.
I understand I understand the intent, but I don't see that we are limiting it in any way to that, or how we can limit it.
So what I would say, I think I would kind of lean on what Robert was saying earlier. I think we should, if we go to grant the variance, put some type of language in our motion such that it's clear that what we're approving is explicitly what's discussed in the variance, the sales of Christmas trees, and the accessory use specifically regarding having a snack shack. Because my only fear is that it's not the use at all. It's actually specifically the variance, being able to essentially write a blank check. So that's my only thought, is I would want to be clear in the motion. But I think it sounds like a great idea.
As I said, I have no problem with the Christmas trees, but I want to know, and maybe Robert can help with this, how do we limit our exposure with the quote-unquote snack shack?
Robert, do you want to address that?
I don't know how that we can specifically limit the stock that they would be selling, but I think it's fair to say something along the lines of uses or limiting of sales to items that are considered clearly accessory to a Christmas tree farm, as those were mentioned by Brett prior, like the hot chocolates, the cookies, the snacks. You pay for your tree there, things along those lines.
I think the overall concern, if I'm hearing Rich and Lynn correctly, is they want to make sure that that shed doesn't end up being a small, antique store or something like that. When you start, granting the allowance to have a commercial, selling something, what is it going to end up becoming? And where, so I think there's definitely one a limitation on what the size of that's going to be. If it's a 20 by 20 shed, great, that's fine. But, we don't want to end up having something, a lot bigger there, where they're, selling.
Can we also limit the hours and days that it's open to the Christmas tree sales? Is that possible?
I think that could be as part of the planning board approval, but not necessarily the variance approval.
Okay, I can take care of that.
Any other questions for spirit of the ordinance? All right, please continue.
I would also add that in terms of the snack shack, it's actually going to be built on a trailer, so it can be moved and stored during the off season. So it's going to be pretty. I don't even necessarily know that it's going to be a permanent structure, but in terms of the use, it'll be the same. We're talking a 20 by 20, either movable or possibly permanent structure for hot chocolate, cookies, etc. What I said. So it'll be pretty low key, and we would encourage the board. If they grant a variance to limit, to that snack shack to essentially as shown on the plan, which is, would limit it to the 20 by 20 dimensions and eliminate the ambiguity or possibility that it does become something more than that. So,
Brett, I understand the intent, but if we grant some of these things, we can't prevent things from changing in the future, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Understood. Okay, I'll move on to the third criteria. Substantial justice is done here. There is no public injury if the variance is granted. We do not believe there's any public gain if the variance is denied. Therefore, in balancing the rights here, as this board knows it needs to do for this criteria, the loss to the applicant if the variance is denied outweighs any harm to the public if the variance is granted. We don't think there will be any harm to the public. Additionally, in the case of R.V. Keene, the economics associated with the variance request are relevant to the substantial justice analysis. And when we're talking about economics here, it plays into the variance request because, again, to meet local demand and to sustain its operations during the business's first few years, the applicant needs to bring in some trees from off-site to sell in order to get things rolling. And for those reasons, we believe substantial justice is done.
Any questions regarding substantial justice? I think we're good to move on to 4.
The values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. This proposal is fully compliant with all dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance, including all setback requirements. We're not requesting any setback variances or to build or otherwise use the setback buffer, or we're not requesting to build any structures within the setback buffer that abutting neighbor properties such that any setback variances are required. As again, this is a seasonal use. It's going to be dormant for most of the year and only really used for 1 month out of the year. As the planning board indicated, very close to conservation land, even though these are technically commercial use variances. This is about as close to conservation land as you can get in terms of a commercial use that will preserve the wetlands and attract wildlife. Just a very passive and productive use that this unique property that fits well in the neighborhood. And again, I don't mean to repeat myself, but I think it's an important thing to remember that the applicant can't sell trees that are grown on site as a matter of right, subject to site plan approval. And we don't think there's any effect on surrounding property values that would arise based on a variance to allow the applicant to bring in some trees off-site during the first few years of the business, or we don't think there's any affect the surrounding property values by allowing a small 20 by 20 snack shack. And for those reasons, we do not believe that the values of surrounding properties will be diminished.
All right. Any questions from the board?
This is kind of where I'm going to step into from as far as surrounding. How are you sure that surrounding properties wouldn't be, there wouldn't be an impact? I mean, you're right. It's only 4 weeks out of the year, 6 weeks out of the year, but as it is there, if I remember correctly, that whole area has been clear cut back there. And now you got some trees, you're hopefully going to be, growing some trees back there. I'm just curious as to, where you're getting the not diminished value, if you have real estate speculation, or I'm just kind of curious where that came from, or if it's just a matter of opinion.
No, that's a great question, and I think that question is why it's very important to remember what we're asking for. So we're not asking for a variance to allow a Christmas tree farm, because the applicant can already do that as a matter of right. He could get site plan approval and go out there, and start planting trees under the agricultural exemption and selling them, and he could have a Christmas tree farm there. So when it comes to analyzing whether surrounding property values will be diminished by granting the variance, I think it's important to ask, well, what are we granting a variance for? And that's simply to allow trees to be brought in from off-site. So what are the impacts of, to the neighbors of allowing trees to be brought in off-site? Well, there's going to be one truck that comes in November and delivers the trees. That's not really an effect on surrounding property values. There's going to be a small 20 by 20 snack shack on the property. Well, we don't think that'll affect surrounding property values. So that's what the variance is for. It's not for the Christmas tree farm in general. So I just think it's important to remember the narrow scope of what we're asking for and how that narrow request would affect surrounding property values. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Any other
Finally,
questions? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Sorry. Unnecessary hardship. The property, as this board knows, you have to first address the special conditions of the property. This property does have several special conditions that distinguish it from other properties in the area. One, it's much larger than other properties in the area at about 8.67 acres. It's actually a bit over 10 acres when we talk about the easement area on the abutting lot. And the overwhelming majority of abutting properties, of which there are 20, range from about half an acre to 2 acres. So in terms of special condition, this is much bigger than all the other lots in the area. Second, it's uniquely horseshoe shaped, as the board can see. It actually comes down even further on this side. And most of it is backland, and there's really just a small, narrow access way along Turkey Hill Road. So it is really a unique shape relative to others in the other lots in the area, which are more or less rectangular or square. Other lots in the area just don't share these unique characteristics that this one does. And owing to those special conditions, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the purpose of the zoning ordinance, again, restriction against selling imported trees on the property, and the accessory snack shack use and its application here. So while this property is zoned primarily for single-family residential uses, due to the unique size, shape, and location of the property, single-family residential use is really not the most productive use of this property from a land planning perspective. But given the unique features of the property that I've just discussed, they lend themselves very nicely to a passive seasonal use such as a Christmas tree farm, where there's adequate access from Turkey Hill Road, there's sufficient area for parking, and then there's really backland, which is not ideal for building houses, but is really good for a Christmas tree farm, where customers can sort of hike out back into nature and cut down their own trees 1 month a year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So just to sort of wrap up, the purpose of the R1 zone, single-family zones in general, is to ensure harmonious integration of residential uses while also allowing for other types of uses that complement and don't compromise the integrity of the neighborhood. And we think that is exactly what we have here. So for all those reasons, we submit that the proposed use is reasonable. We ask that the board grant these 2 variances, one for each lot, for the very limited purposes that we've discussed. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the board may have at this time.
I guess the only question I have at this moment is for Robert, and that's that you refer to this as 2 variances, but we only have 1 variance. Are we treating this as 2 separate variances?
You are ultimately in the motion. If you look at the legal notice, it's written up for both lots. And the reason for that is because the snack shack itself is located on the house lot, the existing house lot, whereas the tree farm and the sales for the trees would likely happen on the parking lot portion or most of the larger lot. So essentially, the use covers both lots, albeit lesser on the existing house lot, the Linda Raymond property, but it still needs to be covered for the activity to happen.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board regarding this petition before we open up to the public? All right, I'll go ahead and open this up to the public. So if anyone is looking to speak either in favor or against this petition, please dial *9 to indicate to us that you're looking to speak. All right, I have a caller. The last three numbers are 130. If you could please dial *6 to unmute yourself and then just state your name and your address.
Hello, Lori Liberty, 11 Acacia Street.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth tonight?
I do.
Okay. Please share with us your thoughts.
Well, I am very concerned that if a commercial variance were granted, that it could be used in the future for something different than a Christmas tree farm.
I would say that I share those same exact concerns as you. However, I think that we can word this in a way where we can prevent other miscellaneous uses for this variance. I think we're kind of all in agreement that we're not looking to write a blank check here for granting commercial access to a residential home. So I do believe that we have a way of structuring this such that it'll be limited explicitly to the tree farm and the snack shack.
I'm also concerned, and this may not be a question or a concern of the zoning board, but I'm very concerned about people walking in my backyard harvesting Christmas trees.
I think that is a valid concern. I'm actually gonna, so Lynn, what are your thoughts? Is this more of a planning board type of thing?
A number of the issues that she's bringing up are going to be planning board issues. There's no question.
Okay. So what I would say is that if we approve this variance, the next step will be to go to the planning board. So those I think would be good things to bring up there as well. Because it's absolutely a valid concern.
And my last question or concern of the night would be, it was mentioned that the water would come from the Merrimack Village District.
We don't have enough water already.
And there's not enough water for the town as it is, and we're gonna water trees.
We're gonna have 8,000 trees.
That are then going to be cut and burned.
8,000 trees.
Honey, please.
Again, that's a planning board issue.
Yeah.
Planning board issue again. Okay. So our
And it'll
questions
come
are really
before
for the planning board.
It'll come before the planning board, and you can come there and express those concerns, which is perfectly appropriate.
Thank you so much.
All right. And absolutely, thank you for calling in.
So you're gonna grant commercial access?
All right. So I have another caller here. Last three digits are 391. If you could please dial *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and your address. I see that you're unmuted, but I am unable to hear you.
Oh, hello. My name is Deborah Utero.
Okay.
And I live at 5 Acacia Street.
All right. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth tonight?
I do, raising my right hand.
Okay, thank you.
So, I submitted a letter, my husband Robert and I, and you probably have it in front of you. And so we have some questions. The first one is about the environment. And at the planning board, we were told that it was going to be an organic Christmas tree farm. It's within the conservation zone, I believe. However, in doing some research, organic Christmas tree farms may use some chemicals at certain points in the growing process. Sometimes that includes putting chemical fertilizers around the roots of seedlings and using herbicides to eradicate weeds around the seedlings. So my question, and once again, this may be a planning board question, is if chemicals will be used in the Christmas tree growing process, even organically, how will the surrounding air, water, and soil be protected?
Rich, this is planning board.
Okay, yeah, I don't think that's something we could even address here, particularly because even if the variance were to be denied, they can still have the tree farm. So whether we pass or fail this variance, or pass or whether we grant or deny this variance, they still can have that tree farm. So that's not something that we can really take into consideration for this particular.
All right. So my next question concerns if the zoning board approves the variance for the tree farm, can a residential house or other structures such as maintenance buildings be built on the property now or in the future?
I think it's important to just let me jump in here because just the wording of what you said, we're actually looking to approve or deny the petitioner to have the snack or the commercial property, the snack shack area. As far as the tree farm itself, again, that's not anything that we have any say over. They can do that with or without us. Just want to clarify that just because the way you word it, we're not listening to them about the tree farm. We're actually listening more about the commercial property aspect of it.
Okay, and then my last area concerns initially when we were notified that a tree farm was going in, the applicant stated, and I quote, "The plan calls for a wooded buffer to remain around the perimeter of the tree farm in order to provide an additional buffer between that area and abutting properties." So I understand that there is no setback requirement here because it's not a building, it's a tree farm. However, I'm wondering if the width of that wooded buffer would be the same as a setback buffer.
That's probably going to be more planning board because we're not looking at them again, the buffer, or we're not looking at the tree farm being put in. We're looking at the commercial shed that they want to put in there to sell cocoa and cookies for people that are getting their Christmas tree. So that would probably be more planning board directed.
Okay, I will address them at the planning board. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. If anyone else is looking to speak, please dial *9 on your phone to indicate that you're looking to speak. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of this. And what are the thoughts of the board?
Personally, I like the tree farm. I always am a big fan of agriculture. I'm a big fan of green spaces. And, I'm glad to see that somebody's going to actually put that there instead of homes. I know a lot of the people that are listening tonight were concerned about the property. Obviously, that's all planning board, but I mean, they could have literally built homes there if they wanted to. So putting in a Christmas tree farm, I like that. Sounds good. I do agree with you, Rich. I think that the wording and the phrasing as it goes as far as the commercial aspect of it, that needs to be modified because like you said, I don't want to write a blank check either. I think it's great. I think you could, like I said, I'm all for putting something, that's not an apartment complex or, 50 homes in a space, but, I agree with you. I don't want to write a blank check either. So I would really rather, before going forward with any type of approval, we want to make sure that the wording is exact. That it's going to be a snack shack, whether it's on wheels or whether it's stationary. It's going to be no bigger than 2020, and they're selling 20 feet by 20 feet or whatever, or 10 feet by 10 feet, and they're selling cookies and cocoa. If you have to get that exact thing, I think we should get that exact. That's my take on it.
I agree. I am not. Oh, Lynn, were you looking to add?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that I don't really think we should put necessarily a limitation on what they sell in the snack shack. I don't think that that's necessarily fair.
I was kind of being facetious, but
no, I know. I just wanted to make sure that because I guess when I think of the snack shack, I'm thinking, hey, maybe there's going to be some some kind of like custom ornaments there. That'd be really cool. Of course, here we are coming up with what things we would buy from the snack shack.
And I'm not looking to dictate. I'm not looking to dictate it to that point, but I agree with you that there. And I was just kind of being facetious, but because I don't know what the wording would sound like, but we do need. I agree with what you were saying about just a blank check to say, okay, it's a commercial space now, and they can do whatever they want. That I don't think would be a good fit for that residential neighborhood. And I'm sure that that's not what they want to do, but like you said, once you grant it, who knows who comes in there afterwards, and they can do what they want because now it's zoned for that. So,
all right, agreed. Do we? So I guess the question is, who wants to make a motion, and how would you word that condition?
I'll make a motion, but I want some guidance from Robert. And I've got a couple of questions. If we don't grant the commercial, does that prevent them from bringing in trees? Or can we allow them to bring in the trees but not grant the snack shack? Or can they bring in a snack shack on a trailer for a temporary basis without getting this variance? Again, I'm not concerned with the people that are doing this now. I think they have great intentions. Considering what has been proposed for this property before, this is far, far, far better. I'm just concerned with this blanket commercial.
So I understand.
So how do we do it?
Yeah, so I completely understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. I because this is the residential zone, you have to be able to grant the variance to allow that activity for what is essentially the accessory use under normal circumstances for a commercial zone and a commercial operation. But you're limited because you're trying to call out specific items now for what would be allowed for the variances for the commercial activity. So you need to grant the variance for the snack shack on that property, grant the variance for the retail sale of the trees being trucked in.
Can we limit the time? So can we say it's granted for this period of time?
I don't believe so, because once a variance is issued, it runs with the property. So I think
Right,
the only thing you could
now
do.
we go to the planning board.
Right. So I think
The planning board has the ability to do what we're trying to do.
the planning board has the ability to limit the hours of operation and things like that. Yes. But once the variance, the permission that's for the sales themselves, that's what runs with the property. The petitioners represented that they really only need to utilize the tree sales portion of it for those 7 years that it's going to take to establish themselves, to be able to utilize essentially what's allowed under the law by harvesting the trees that are sourced from the property itself. But we're kind of in this weird catch-22 where once you grant the variance, it's going to run with the property. So the ZBA is going to put conditions on that.
And if the planning board limits these things as we've talked about, then if somebody else comes in afterwards and says, well, I've got the tree farm here, but I'm gonna do this snack shack, which is on a trailer right now, but I'm gonna put it on a foundation, and I'm gonna put some commercial stuff in here, and I'm gonna run it year round. They would have to come back to the planning board to get approval for that.
That's where I think the zoning board has some flexibility to limit what exactly the snack shack is for. As a condition of approval for the snack shack, you would want to limit that to sales of items expressly limited to the duration of like the opening part of when the tree sales are taking place, that duration of time, and items traditionally sold. I don't know if you can specify specifically, candy bars, hot chocolate, that's it, but maybe a little bit broader of language that says.
So we can do that.
Yeah, I guess what I'm seeing is I don't know that you want to limit to 2 or 3 specific items. Something
No,
gets
no, I'm just saying we can limit hours of operation, or not necessarily, but duration and concept of sales.
And the planning board should back that up as part of theirs, but the ZBA should make clear in their decision what they're trying to intend by granting any variance. Yeah.
So, Rob, I had one question here. So you say that the variance stays with the property. So if these people leave the property in 10 years, it's now been zoned for commercial. So somebody could put a commercial space in there, or by what Lynn is proposing, is she going to actually limit what the commercial can be?
You can limit what the commercial can be. So the variance to have a commercial sales, it depends on how you make your motion. So if you make the motion to grant commercial sales, period, that opens the door to whatever. If you grant the motion with a condition that it be limited to Christmas tree sales and the operation of a snack shack with items customarily related to a tree farm, that greatly reduces what would potentially walk in the door years from now if this were to ever cease.
So something
excuse me, Patrick.
Sorry.
And during the duration when the Christmas tree farm sales are ongoing.
Right. Yeah. So you could say sales. You can limit that to say sales shall not occur outside of the November, December timeframe, and the planning board should also put that on an approval if they were to grant one as well, just to make it abundantly clear what's trying to be, proposed here.
Seasonal items is what we're looking at. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Do we have a motion?
So Lynn started to make a motion, then we went into the questions.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Lynn, you got muted.
I'm sorry. Too many buttons here. I'm going to make a motion that we grant the variance as proposed, with the limitations that the commercial operation is limited to the Christmas season, and sales of items shall be limited to related Christmas items. Will that work, Robert?
I would like more definition on Christmas season. I know it sounds foolish, but if you can specify, are we talking Thanksgiving to Christmas itself?
I will say the month of November through Christmas.
Okay, so November 1st through December 25th.
Correct.
And is there any way to condition it that it's explicitly for Christmas tree sale and the snack shack?
I think that's what I did.
So yeah, the second part of that was sales of items is limited to, and I kind of got off track because we started talking about the dates here, to Christmas items, I think is what you said, but I want that further.
Items related to Christmas.
Seasonal items.
Seasonal items. Seasonal items.
All right. Applicable seasonal items.
applicable
Like I
seasonal
said, I have
items.
no
That's good.
problem with these. What they're proposing, I think, is wonderful, far and above what was proposed before. I just want to protect us against anybody that's coming after the fact.
I agree.
There's also the staff recommendation that petitioner shall obtain site plan approval.
That's a given
Okay.
and included.
I second.
If I could, real quick, before we take a vote, I just want to make sure I've got it right. I've got Lynn making a motion to grant the variances with the limitation that the commercial activity be limited to the time period of November 1st through December 25th, and that the sales of items is limited to only applicable seasonal items.
Correct. Subject to planning board, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
All right. So motion was made by Lynn, seconded by Patrick. Lynn, are you in favor?
I am in favor.
Patrick, are you in favor?
I'm in favor.
Ben, are you in favor?
Yes.
Drew, are you in favor?
Yes.
I as well am in favor. So this variance passes 5-0-0. And as always, there's that 30-day window where someone can appeal this. But otherwise, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much. And I know this. Oops, sorry. This was, I think, 2 variances. Are we clear that I don't know if we need to distinguish between 1 variance and 2 variances in terms of the different lots?
The variance covers both lots. In the way that we have it worded is that it's 2 lots for this variance.
Lot
Okay, great.
229 and lot 22901.
Right. No, right. You'll see on the decision letter, we'll use the language that was in the legal notice, which covers both lots. So that way both lots will be covered for the same relief.
Okay, great.
Brett.
Thank you very much.
Brett, let the buyers know that this is a fabulous use for this property, and I wish them all success.
Thank you very much. I'll let them know.
All right, thank you. So on to the next agenda item, discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern. The only thing I've got is welcome, Ben. Congratulations. I did not realize you're a member before tonight.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss, or Robert, is there anything we should know?
I do not have anything specific tonight, Mr. Chair.
Rich, I'm gonna bail and go to my other Zoom meeting.
We just have the approval of minutes.
Yeah, can you all right.
All right. I motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, December 30th, 2020.
All right, motion made by Patrick, seconded by Drew. Patrick, are you in favor?
I'm in favor.
Drew, you in favor?
Yes.
Ben, are you in favor?
Yes.
I'm in favor, so 4-0-0.
So that
And
was
then
who seconded that motion? I'm sorry.
Drew seconded.
Thank you.
My favorite motion. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, guys and ladies and gentlemen, have a great February? Jeez, we're in February already.
Take care, everyone.
All right, take it easy. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning. I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.